Harry and Meghan are leaving the palace to become financially independent. And you see, this is what happens when you bring the first black woman into the royal family. Yeah, she looked at Harry and she's like, "Nigga, you need to get a job. You a grown-ass man."
No more following Granny's rules. Don't wear your pants on your head, Harry. Don't bath on the butler, Harry. If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that.
Right away, Meg.
Oh, honey, let me tell you. The night Trevor Noah turned his sharp, mischievous eyes toward Meghan Markle, it wasn't just comedy. No, it felt like a public trial. The studio wasn't giggling politely like they do for those safe late-night jokes. The laughs were jagged, almost guilty, the kind you let out when someone finally says what's been sitting in the back of your mind. Trevor didn't just roast her, he dragged the shiny, polished Meghan facade right into the harsh light of day. And the crowd knew it.
Damn, Harry and Meghan are losing their titles? That's the most embarrassing royal loss since William.
Trevor didn't stroll out with a couple of easy one-liners about Netflix deals or fancy royal photo ops. No, darling, he launched a cross-examination. His timing, razor sharp, like a scalpel slicing straight through PR fluff. His perspective, global, the kind no American or British comic could fake because Trevor had lived through it, seen through it, and knew exactly how to expose it.
Has announced that Harry and Meghan can no longer describe themselves as royal. And I won't lie, if I was Harry and Meghan, I'll be like, fine, then we'll be known as royal.
And Meghan? Oh, she must have felt that sting. For years, she could dismiss her critics. They're jealous, bitter, racist, but Trevor Noah, an immigrant himself, an award-winning comedian with credibility, he cut right through that shield. He didn't just poke fun, he ripped apart her image brick by brick, tossing out every contradiction she's been hiding behind glossy interviews and filtered Instagram posts. And when the camera caught Trevor's sly little smile between punchlines, whew, you could feel the whole room shift. This wasn't about laughing anymore. This was about seeing. And once people saw it, oh honey, they couldn't unsee it.
I do have to admit this, right? I always find it weird when people introduce a new baby. Because if you think about it, there's such a big contrast between the end product and how it was made. The result of our sweaty night of just raw dogging.
Trevor opened his takedown on a battlefield Meghan probably thought she'd already conquered. Race. Most comedians, they tiptoe around that subject. But Trevor, with his South African roots, his lived experience juggling racial identity across continents, he didn't tiptoe. He came swinging. He pointed out the coded language used in Meghan's media coverage, then flipped it on its head. And the kicker? He mocked how Meghan herself weaponized those narratives whenever it was convenient for her. The gasps, the laughter. It was a whole storm in that studio.
Big question is, if Harry and Meghan come to America, where they're gonna live? Everyone wants to know. I think they'll move to LA because Meghan is an actor, and then she's gonna wanna work again, and then Harry can just join the cast of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Yeah, just be like fighting on TV. I know what you said about me, Diddy. Say it!
And then he went for the marriage. Oh yes, that fairy tale love story, Trevor dismantled it like a case study. He painted Harry not as a prince, but as a jobless man clinging to scraps of relevance. And Meghan, not a victim, not a helpless duchess, but the ultimate Hollywood networker who just happened to network her way into a palace. The killer? Trevor joking about Harry hustling for cartoon voiceover gigs at industry mixers while Meghan worked the room. The visual was brutal, humiliating, and hilarious all at once. That wasn't just funny, it was devastating. In under 3 minutes, Trevor Noah flipped their story. No longer the victims of a cruel monarchy, Harry and Meghan were suddenly just another overconfident celebrity couple, scrambling to stay relevant in Hollywood's never-ending circus. Meghan's carefully curated global humanitarian image, reduced to a punchline so sharp even the studio band was laughing between riffs, and Trevor wasn't done. Oh no, sweetheart. That was just the warm-up. Because once Trevor lit that match, the fire spread like wildfire. Every American comedian smelled blood in the water. Late-night hosts, podcast kings, sketch shows, all of them lined up for their turn. And forget polite royal jabs. Conan O'Brien went full absurdist, using the news of Meghan and Harry's wax figures being yanked from Madame Tussauds to spin a bit that placed them somewhere. Let's just say far less glamorous than Buckingham Palace. The crowd? Screaming. And then, honey, Saturday Night Live jumped into the roast. They didn't just poke fun once and move on. Oh no, they made Meghan and Harry a recurring joke. Picture this, Mikey Day bumbling across the stage as Prince Harry, completely clueless, while the rest of the cast dragged suits like it was a TV relic nobody wanted to remember. Meghan had forced the world to sit through her serious projects, and SNL wasn't having it. The audience? Howling. And Meghan? Well, you can bet she wasn't laughing. Then came Joe Rogan, and let's be real, Joe doesn't sugarcoat. He didn't even bother writing a polished routine. Instead, he turned his real beef with Harry into a comedy act. His punchline, not anger, not outrage, just roasting Harry until he sounded pitiful. By the end of the week, Meghan's name wasn't a headline anymore, darling. It was a punchline. America's biggest comedy platforms weren't just roasting them once. They made Harry and Meghan regular clowns in their lineups, the kind you could mock on repeat. That's the real burn. Once the jokes become recurring bits, you're done. Now, if you thought America's comedians were brutal, the British scene said, "Hold my tea." They didn't bring butter knives, sweetie. They came with bayonets. Andrew Schultz? He didn't waste a single breath pretending to care. His dismissal of Meghan and Harry was so cold, so cutting, the audience actually gasped before they laughed. That's when you know a joke hits hard, when the laugh comes with a wince. Then Nikki Glaser waltzed in with her own style of savagery. She didn't roast Meghan as a duchess or a princess. She imagined her grinding in mid-tier Hollywood, still hustling for background roles instead of royal titles. It was so vivid, so painfully accurate, the crowd couldn't help but roar. Meghan's fairy tale suddenly looked like a bargain bin Hollywood script. But oh darling, Simon Brodkin. Now that's a name you don't forget. The man is famous for mocking people to their faces. And when he took on Meghan and Harry's Netflix doc, he shredded it with a single sentence. One brutal summary that reduced the entire glossy, overproduced series into nothing more than a vanity project. Boom. Just like that, the royal drama was exposed as a PR stunt wrapped in a bow. And then the knockout? The animated series The Prince? No live stage needed, just pure satire. Meghan was drawn as fame-obsessed, Harry as a purposeless man drifting in her shadow. Their royal exit wasn't romantic or noble anymore. No, it was portrayed as one giant career move, like quitting one job to grab another. The message in the UK was clear. Meghan wasn't a tragic heroine. She was a PR stunt that flopped. And unlike America's comedians, who moved on once the laughs cooled, British acts kept coming back. Every new interview, every Netflix clip, every podcast soundbite was recycled into fresh ammo. Meghan wasn't just mocked, she became a national sport. Can you imagine? Being roasted so often that it's practically Britain's weekend entertainment? Meghan must have been fuming, because this wasn't one-and-done shade. This was relentless. And then came Spitting Image. Britain's legendary puppet satire didn't play games. When those puppets turned their bulging eyes on Meghan and Harry, it wasn't just another roast. It was character assassination. Meghan's puppet, drawn with exaggerated glamour and that smug smirk, always scheming her next PR stunt. Harry's puppet, a clueless man-child so pampered he couldn't even hold a TV remote without a butler's help. The audience, screaming, clutching their sides because it was savage, but it was also true. One skit even showed Meghan and Harry plotting new career ventures that sounded more like late-night infomercial scams than royal projects. Netflix wasn't shown as a serious business move. It was mocked as a cheap cash grab. And Meghan's whole wellness goddess vibe? Destroyed. They had her promoting smoothies so vile that other puppets literally gagged on stage. Darling, this wasn't comedy anymore. This was demolition. If you thought British comedy had reached its limit with the puppets, oh honey, you were wrong. The savagery was just beginning. Because then, Jimmy Carr walked in. And when Jimmy Carr decides to cross a line, you know it's going to be nuclear. He strutted onto that stage with that devilish grin, the one that tells the audience, I know this is going to be too far and I'm doing it anyway. And darling, he delivered. His setup was tight, fast. No breathing room, no way for Meghan or Harry to hide behind nuance or excuses. And then came the punchline. It didn't just land, it exploded. He dug into the one thing the British public keeps buried deep, the royal line of succession. In one dark, cutting swipe, he made the audience roar, then instantly freeze as they realized just how close to the bone his joke really was. People laughed with their hands over their mouths, others gasped, some clapped. It was that dangerous sweet spot only Jimmy Carr dares to live in. The fallout? Oh baby, it was instant. Clips went viral overnight, radio hosts argued, pundits called it reckless. Think pieces flooded the tabloids. Too far or just comedy? Critics claimed Jimmy had crossed a line into dangerous territory, while others defended him as the only comedian brave enough to say the unsayable. And the irony? The outrage didn't kill the joke. It amplified it. Jimmy's punchline became the definitive moment of the Harry and Meghan roast saga. The clip wasn't just a joke anymore. It was immortalized as the too far moment that cemented their downfall in comedy history. Meghan's carefully curated image had been shredded beyond recognition, and no amount of PR spin could tape it back together. But darling, if you thought the professional comedians were the problem, you haven't met the internet. Because once the internet got its claws on Meghan, it wasn't just a roast anymore, it was a cultural bloodbath. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. Overnight, they turned into 24/7 roast arenas. Clips of Meghan and Harry were chopped, remixed, and captioned into brutal little parodies that spread like wildfire. It all started with one tiny moment. Meghan correcting Mindy Kaling on her name in that Netflix doc. Just a blink and you miss it exchange. But the internet slowed it down, replayed it, and captioned it until Meghan's face became a meme template for every overcorrecting scenario imaginable. Suddenly, she wasn't Meghan Markle. She was, "My name is Meghan Sussex now, call me Markle one more time, Mindy Kaling." People pasted her face onto every ridiculous clip imaginable. It was savage. And then came the parody cooking videos. Oh my god. Meghan's curated lifestyle goddess image got ripped to pieces. Skits popped up of Meghan in spotless kitchens, wearing designer aprons, sipping champagne while giving laughably impractical budget tips. One viral parody had her tossing apples into a salad like she'd never touched food before in her life. The voiceover? "Here comes the first time in her life Meghan Markle actually touches food." The audience? Dead. But it didn't stop there. Fan-made music videos started rolling out. Yes, you heard me. Music videos. Meghan's interviews were auto-tuned into dance tracks with titles like Royal Reality Check. People were literally dancing to remixed clips of Meghan talking about her struggles. That's when it hit me. This wasn't satire anymore. This was an online genre. Meghan Markle had become a meme factory, an unwilling poster child for mockery on loop. The brutality of it? The internet is relentless. Unlike a late-night monologue that disappears after 24 hours, these memes lived forever. They were reposted, reshared, recaptioned, until Meghan and Harry's contradictions were tattooed onto pop culture like a stain that wouldn't wash out. And here's the real dagger in the back. The roast wasn't about one scandal. It wasn't about one bad documentary, one awkward interview, or one hypocritical quote. It was about the fundamental contradiction in Meghan and Harry's brand. On one hand, they begged for privacy. On the other, they built an empire selling access to their private lives. One minute, they were crying about the cruelty of media intrusion. The next, they were cashing in on Netflix specials, tell-all books, and staged photo shoots. It was hypocrisy so glaring, so impossible to ignore, that once the public saw it, they couldn't unsee it. And every single comedian, podcaster, meme maker, and parody artist pointed straight at that crack and ripped it wider. By now, Meghan and Harry weren't just royals. They weren't even just celebrities. They had become symbols of contradiction, the living, breathing punchline of the global comedy scene. Trevor Noah may have fired the first shot, but what followed? Darling, it was an all-out cultural ambush. American comics, British satirists, puppet shows, meme makers, millions of online creators, each dismantling Meghan and Harry's carefully constructed image from every possible angle. And here's the part Meghan cannot escape. Once you become a running joke, there's no undoing it. Every new interview, every staged photo, every podcast, all of it risks becoming the next viral roast. The problem isn't just the comedy, it's that the punchlines keep exposing a truth the Sussexes cannot rewrite. They built a brand on contradictions. And comedy has a vicious way of sniffing out every single crack. So now comes the question, whispered in tabloids and screamed on TikTok, can Meghan Markle ever reclaim her story once the world has decided it's funnier without her?